Hi YouTube, this is Felicia with Bible Scraps, and boy do I have the coolest technique to share today. Okay, so if you guys are like me, you love the whole idea of sewing. You love the idea of making quilts. Perhaps you want to make a quilt, but let me tell you, that whole process is intimidating to me. Several years ago, I purchased several beginner sewing books. But you know what? They were all too advanced. I know they need to make sewing and quilting books for dummies, right? Because that's me. Well, I came up with a method of making simple and easy paper quilts. And let me show you one. I actually have others I need to grab to show you, but I absolutely love this process, love the method, and love the result. I'm not sure if you could see in this example my stitching. You know what? Let me just grab the other. So one day several weeks ago, I went crazy making paper quilts. No, these are not finished because these do not have the stitching. But you get an idea of some of the looks that you can create. Now, what's cool about my method is I use my personal fabrics to create these paper quilts. Now, in the video, we are going to make a couple of paper quilts, but I took my paper quilt to the next level and created this pocket wall hanging thingy. I have yet to add my ribbon. But take a look at how this looks. I just love it. Do you see the stitching? And yes, that is on paper, you guys. I absolutely love this. Okay, so let's get started because you can create your own. Let's get started with my method. And we are actually using real fabric. And you will see with this technique, you create a master page and you can recreate additional paper quilts, simple and easy. What you do, take your fabric and cut it down to the size of your die. This is when the thick cuts or the steel roll dies come in handy because you could easily cut out multiple layers of fabric in one pass. This is frame number 1. It's by Ellison and it's discontinued, I think, but use any type of die that you have that will cut out the shape that you want. So I'm interested in this square in the center of this frame. Now, this technique is perfect for or to use up your remnants and your scraps. So feel free to use those as well. You could also use the charm squares that are pre-cut, and you can buy these at your local fabric store. They fit perfectly with this die, but you know, I'm interested in these fabrics here. These fabrics are all thrifted, and I love shopping for fabrics at the thrift store. I rarely buy new fabric at the craft stores because at the thrift stores, well, you never know what you'll get. You'll find fabrics that are vintage, no longer available, and I have some of the prettiest prints in my thrifted stash. Okay, so to cut out the fabric, I'm using the Cuttlebug, and I'll be using 2 B plates. But I do want to make sure, because my fabric, they're different sizes, so I want to make sure I'm covering up the actual blades. So let me put that to the side and do this. So take a look at these pretty fabrics. I love them. You know, I do hope to one day make a quilt. I have a lot of ideas going through my head, but until then, I am satisfied with my paper quilts. Okay, so you send this through, and one pass will cut out these multiple layers. And this is the frame that is made. Well, I'll keep these for other projects because I am interested in this part. So pretty, and here you see my desired cuts. I love these. Perfect size for a paper quilt. And once again, I'm going to keep the frames to use these and other projects. I'm also going to keep the remnant, the negative shape. I actually shared a junk journal embellishment video, and I used strips that I had cut from the negative piece to make those embellishments. I will link that below. But we are using these shapes here, and I'm using my scanner. I love this printer. It's by HP. It's a HP Envy printer. I actually did a review on this printer. I call this printer the Crafter's printer because I'm enrolled in HP's Instant Ink program where you can buy affordable ink and it will, it's sent directly to your home. They have 3 plans to choose from, and I love it because this printer is dedicated for all things crafting, and I'll have that linked below and you can check it out. Sometimes it's hard to tell which side is the right side. Well, I guess with that one, it don't matter. Okay, and I know I want this one. This is a real pretty one. And I want this one. And I don't have this one. Okay, so what I'll do is put these on the edge. So here's my first print, and I do like how this turned out. Now, I did print with the best setting because I want my quilt pattern to be as vibrant as possible. Now, you do see thin white borders in between some of the fabric pieces. In the next step, we are going to alleviate that. But if you do not want those white borders, because you don't see it here, what you can do is, and I'll do that right now, is just overlap your fabric. Alrighty, so here are my 2 paper top quilts. This one is the second one. I overlapped the fabric pieces, and as you can see, there's no white borders. But once again, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make a difference because it is time to formalize these paper quilts and make them look more like quilts by adding real stitches. Alrighty, so I have my handy dandy sewing machine. I've had this for forever and I love it. And I'll be stitching on the first paper quilt because I want to show you how you can easily hide the white borders. Now I'm using a standard sewing needle, regular thread, and I'm using a zigzag stitch. And I'm also using a regular sewing foot. And what you do is, well, I want to create stitches along, I guess the edge, every edge of where my fabric pieces meet. So I'll start with a long stitch. Start off slow, and then I can speed it up. Now, sewing on paper is really easy. If you guys have a sewing machine and you have not tried it, you ought to try it. So now I'll go faster. And I'm not too worried about it being like really perfect. I mean, I want the handmade look. You do want to make sure you have space in the back. is my finished paper quilt top. This is so pretty. It is so pretty. And I love, well, there's several things I love. I love number one, I have a master page. I printed out 2 pages. So if I want to recreate this same quilt, I'll just make copies. Number 2, I love that I have incorporated my own fabrics. And it printed out so well. Now, you could substitute fabric for paper because we crafters, we have a lot of paper in our stash, and a lot of paper will work well in making the paper quilts. And then also I love the actual stitches. Oh my goodness, you can go crazy with the different stitches on your machine and different colors of thread. Now you can create this in different sizes. If you wanted a smaller size, you could create a full size and cut it down and then sew after you cut it down. But you could use it both orientations, either vertically or horizontally. Now, this is a great foundational piece for your art journal. You could also customize this even more with embellishments, and I'll be doing that next. But you could do a whole lot with this, and this is how the back looks. Really simple. I mean, even the back is pretty, right? I love the stitching effect on the back. But I absolutely adore this piece. I love this method. Once again, if you don't have fabric, you can use paper. If you don't have a die cutting machine, you can cut out your fabric or your paper with. All right, everyone, I took my paper top quilt to the next level and created a pocket type wall hanging, and you see it here. Now, I took the frames that I cut out to make my fabric pieces. The frames, well, here's one and here's another one, and then I stitched it down because I wanted to add real fabric to this piece. And then you see that I've added some die cut hearts out of the same fabric. This is all about sewing, so I had to add buttons. You see a red button here and a little animal, or is that a teddy bear button there? And here's a button here with a clothespin. And then I have one of my signature thread bobbin embellishments here. And I backed it. Actually, I sewed my paper top quilt on a piece of pink canvas. And I really do, I like how this turned out. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have so much fun. I will be back to make another style of paper top quilt, and perhaps I'll use that one in one of my books. By the way, the paper top quilt will be a signature page in my handmade books that I will be offering for sale. But I'm not done. I want to add more to it. I just don't know what I want to add just yet. But since this will be a wall hanging, I need to add my ribbon. Well, I hope you all have been inspired by my creativity. If you have, why not give me a thumbs up, like this video. Also, feel free to share this video. If you decide to adopt this idea, please give me proper credits. Do give a shout out and do link back to this video. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. As always, blessings.